I will call to order our regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen. Today is December 21st, 2020, our last official meeting for 2020. I'd love to say things will get back to normal at our next meeting, but I think we're a little bit of ways off from that. So the next, I will formally mention Selectwoman Boritz will not be with us this evening. So we'll mark her as absent. And, she's not feeling well, so we wish her to get well soon. Approval of minutes. We have minutes from our December 7th, 2020 meeting. An opportunity to take a look.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of December 7th as submitted.
I will second. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll continue with, when I call for a vote, having Heather do a roll vote.
Blessington,
Aye.
Washinsky,
Aye. Motion carries. Next item is present to speak. If you are present to speak and looks like, and you're on camera, you do not have to appear on camera, but if you would like to speak, you do have the ability to unmute yourself. I ask you to state your name for the record and limit yourself to 2 minutes. Is there anyone present to speak? You should be able to unmute yourself.
Good evening, Peter Latinchich. Can I reserve my present to speak time for the agenda item school building committee, please?
At this point, the time present to speak time would be now. There'll be another present to speak at the end of the agenda.
I have no further comment. Thank you.
Is there anyone else present to speak? Okay. Again, there will be an opportunity at the end of the meeting for public comments. The next item on our agenda is correspondence. John, you should see that there were no general correspondence into the Selectmen's office since our last meeting. So I'll move on to Selectmen's update. The Emergency Communications Task Force has not met since our last meeting. We were anticipating meeting potentially this evening. Mr. Latensix, if you could, or Heather, if you can mute him, please.
Where are you?
The next step is approving the questions for our survey. And so as soon as those are ready, we will call a meeting to do so. So I have no update on that meeting. The Parks and Rec Director position, it closed last week. We currently, the hiring committee will begin reviewing. They all have the applications and they'll begin reviewing the applications and then conducting interviews in the coming weeks. Things are a little crazy with the holidays in here. I can tell you, I believe we had 12 applications. One came late, so it would not be considered. It was after the close date. The boiler replacement here in the TOB, at the last meeting, we awarded the project to replace a boiler that heats all of the town office building with the exception of the large common room upstairs and the finance office and the extension that includes human services and parks and rec. So the rest of the building is heated by that boiler. They are going to complete that work this Wednesday, the 23rd, and on Christmas Eve, the 24th. So the staff in those affected areas will be working from home on Wednesday, so we won't be taking any in-person appointments here in the town office building. And we're closed on Christmas Eve. It's one of the holidays for staff, so no staff will be affected on that date. So hopefully that goes with no problem. That brings us to Public Works.
Excuse me.
Yes, John.
I'm just kind of disappointed that I was never contacted about being on the hiring committee for Parks and Rec. I guess
Sure.
I'm not on there, but
There are currently six members, including 3 members of the Parks and Rec Commission, who the Parks and Rec Director answers to, along with myself and another Parks and Rec Director from a neighboring town. So while we would love to have the selectmen on every hiring committee, they're just that this one was already full. But we will keep you informed as we move through the process. Again, we're just starting to review them. We haven't set a meeting yet and have not met. So there's been no discussion about them. So hopefully we'll find some candidates within this pool. Any other questions about the status report, John?
not about the status report now.
All right, Public Works, Troy?
All right, we got the trucks ready for the storm, the trash at the park. We actually did some more roadside mowing around town. We shoveled the roof off over at the town office building where the kitchen area seems to be a leak there in the roof. And the only way to stop it is we shovel snow off of it. We've cleaned off catch basins in town. We've cleaned the shop. The guys were out today cleaning sight lines where their snow was pushed up from the trucks. We've washed the trucks. You said the new boiler will be replaced this week. We helped Jenny with the food share with traffic control the last time she did it. And I want to just say one thing. Moose Meadow Road will be closed December 28th and 29th. There's going to be some large trees taken down in the vicinity of house number 282 in that little stretch of area. It requires a 100-foot bucket truck. So the road is going to be closed. So basically from Turnpike to Jared Sparks, that section of road will be closed. And they're going to start around 7:30 and they'll be done around 3:30.
I know we'll be putting out a public notice and
Yep.
it will be posted on our website. Is that Eversource tree removal?
Yes, yep. Asplin's doing the work, but we're going to close the road.
Yeah, I guess if it were a different road, we could probably keep the road open, but it's so narrow there
Yeah.
with the truck they have to bring in.
Yep.
Right. So that's from Jared Sparks to 320 out to 74, correct? That section of Moose Meadow? The other section.
No, it's the other section from Jared Sparks to Turnpike.
Turnpike, okay.
Yep.
Any questions for Public Works? New business. We have one tax refund. So I will make a motion to refund VCFS Auto Leasing Company a certificate of correction in the amount of $352.68.
Second,
Seconded by John. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote.
Lessington,
aye.
Waschinsky,
Aye. Motion carries. The next item is the annual appointment of our animal control officer. I will move to reappoint Tina Benheimer as the animal control officer effective January 1st, 2021, expiring December 31st, 2021.
And I will second that and just want to say I will enthusiastically second that. I think Tina does a great job.
Tina does an amazing job out there. All right, I echo those sentiments of Selectman Blessington. All right, if seeing no other discussion, I'll call for a vote.
Lessington,
Aye.
Waschinsky.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you to Tina for continuing to serve our community in that capacity. All right, the next item, mold. If you recall, 2 years ago, we found mold in the front part, the concrete portion of the basement, and had some historic book tax or assessing books in there. And we had to have that mitigated and had to have the books restored. We were able to get a preservation grant to do so. Again, that was the front part of the basement. And we know that it's believed that the mold came from the dirt portion of and the dampness from the dirt portion of the basement. Those books are no longer kept there. They're now in the vault. Well, earlier this month, When organizing older documents from the land use department, they discovered materials that were wet, brought them upstairs to dry out. And when they were working on them, a staff member had a reaction to what appeared to be mold on the documents. So I instructed them not to continue on those, and we called Service Master and had them come out to assess the situation. We did find mold in the dirt cellar and on many of the documents, and those documents have a lifetime retention on them. So depending on what the documents are here in the town, they have a retention schedule. These happen to be lifetime retention. So a dirt basement is not ideal place for them to be. It's where they've been for many years though. Again, Service Master came out, they've given us a quote for the document preservation of $28,050 and $9,536.90 for the mitigation of the mold in that room. We had an air quality test done and throughout the building, and we're awaiting those results. We filed a claim with Kerma, and we're waiting to see what's covered. The biggest concern is whether or not the document preservation will be covered. That's quite extensive. And I can tell you that our zoning agent, Mike D'Amato, is working with the state library to determine if some of these documents are so far damaged that we need to retain them. And so we'll see, they may or may not have some funding, but they were discouraged, to say the least, to find that we have yet another mold issue with historic documents, and that they're being kept in a basement that still has not been adequately made to hold such documents. So if you recall, in 2018, after the last mold issue, I asked for, through CIP, a project that would concrete and treat the walls in the basement. That's been in CIP since then and prepared to go to CIP again. I did go to Board of Finance on this past Thursday, asking them for funding, not through the CIP project, but something that would get us funds more readily available to do this project. And their recommendation was get us a quote from a state contractor, someone off the state bid list, and they would hold an emergency meeting and determine. There were other members of the board who, felt like we were circumventing the CIP process. And so I was a lot discouraged. I made it clear that we had a staff member, again, who had an adverse reaction to what appears to be and is mold in this building. So I think this is incredibly important and a potential health safety issue. So we'll see what the air quality test tells us, and I'll share that as soon as we know. They did think, Troy, he thought maybe Tuesday, so tomorrow, we're hoping. Troy, can you talk a little bit about what the advice was to do to that room? Most of it is what we were anticipating.
Yeah, the guy that's going to clean the mold, he said basically the boxes would have to come out. Then there would be a floor poured, and then they would come in and really take care of all the mold. And then you should be all set. There should be like a humidifier installed, something in there. But he basically said, you're wasting your money if you're just going to clean the documents and put stuff back down there. He says it's a breeding ground for mold. It's the right temperature. It's a dirt cellar. There's water that comes through the foundation still in certain spots. So he says the walls need to be fixed by repointing or stuccoing them and sealing them over with a sealant. And then he says, once that's all taken care of, the mold shouldn't grow again.
There's a recommendation for better air handling, maybe an ERV in that area, as well as a sump pump and a dehumidifier.
Humidifier, yep.
And also we might want to think about looking at something that communicates so that we can see upstairs when the humidity level drops to a certain point.
Yep.
It opens up into the downstairs area where the men's and women's rooms are, right outside the superintendent's conference room. So we've typically in the front part of that, we store paper goods for the town office building here. I can tell you we've taken those out of, they do not appear to be affected. We've taken those out of there, and staff has been told that the basement is off limits until we get this situation handled. So I wanted the board to be aware of where we're at. I don't have funding in our budget for these dollars. And if I did, it would be coming from a different source that I would need to go to Board of Finance to transfer funding from. So, this will require either funds within our budget, taking from someplace else with the Board of Finance's approval, or funds coming from the general fund and going to a town meeting. What we can't do is move the documents to another place because they contain mold. So we can't move them somewhere else. All we're doing at that point is moving the mold. So that would be a hazard. But we're waiting to see what KERMA comes back to us on as far as what exactly they're going to cover so that we can take the next steps in preserving the documents and working with the state library. Yes, John?
Just a couple questions.
Sure.
Is that area down there heated currently?
No.
Okay, so it's just, and
The air handler for this building is in that room though.
yeah. But the room itself's not heated.
No.
We also put a concrete floor, I believe, in the old town hall. Is there anything that can be stored down there?
Not until we clean the mold, because then we'll just be moving the mold from here to the old town hall.
Okay.
So
But
we might be able to move the documents there, but I don't know that that's adequate enough. Troy?
And well, that floor down there, it's poured, but the walls do leak water when we get heavy rain. It's a stone foundation. So those would have to be repointed or put up on a pallet, but you're still having moisture on the concrete.
I
So,
mentioned these documents are on pallets.
yeah.
So it's gonna, I don't know that room or the room at the bottom of the old town hall is ever going to be adequate for storing permanent storage of documents. The weight in the attic is such that we need to be taking documents out of the attic and not put them into. So, what we're going to find is we may have to be storing them offsite, and that's going to get incredibly costly year after year after year. So as soon as I have some real, concrete information from KERMA in that air quality test, I'll get back to you on whether or not we need to have another meeting as a board ourselves. Any other questions or concerns, John? I'm most concerned about the staff and the safety of working conditions in this building, I will tell you. Again, very concerned that a staff member had an adverse reaction to handling those documents. So, we're moving on this quickly. Nothing happens as fast as I'd like it to, though, but we will keep you updated of all the information as it unfolds. I'm sorry, was that your hand, John? No.
No.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I blinked, I thought I saw your hand. Okay, so I'll move on to our COVID-19 update. As of this afternoon, the state reports that Wellington has a total of 104 COVID positive cases with 6 probable cases. So that's an increase of 21 cases in the last 2 weeks since our last meeting. I don't have any reports of any further, any additional deaths related to COVID-19 in Wellington. So, but again, the question has been asked of us, how many of those are active? My guess now would be somewhere up to the 21 may still be actively positive or actively ill. So, I hope they are all well. Again, we don't have information on who, as all of that is HIPAA protected health information. I do have some information on the vaccine. So far in Connecticut, 7,761 vaccines have been administered. They are in phase 1A, which is mostly healthcare workers. They began with critical care facilities, long-term health care facilities, and some EMS workers. And I know we've had at least one of our EMS, I believe, vaccinated so far. So we're starting to see that. The best description of this process so far is a very faint light at the end of a really long tunnel. So, the process has begun. The hope is that after 12 months, 70% of the population will be vaccinated. 12 months. So, it's a slow moving process. It's another vaccine, the Moderna vaccine was approved. So we should start to see that filtering out into states soon so more people can be vaccinated. We were made aware from our health district that municipal staff and volunteers, and the volunteers would include more than likely our elected officials, our poll workers, and then our staff in phase 2B. I caught a little bit of the press conference this afternoon. It looks like they've broken 1B. They've broken phase 1B out into 1C and 1B, which we kind of anticipated. I didn't see what would be specifically municipal staff in the new 1B. So I think we may have moved to 1C. So I haven't gotten word on that, but as of Friday, it was anticipated that we'd move into our potential phase in February. And because of that, we are setting up our list of staff, again, those staff and volunteers to provide into the VAMS system. And the VAMS system is the vaccine management system. So we would upload their names, first and last name, and an email. And then the individual will be contacted and they would share then their personal and or health information. The town would have no access to it whatsoever. And then they would determine whether or not they were to get the vaccine from there. Any appointment would be set up directly with the individual. So we provide the list of people who are eligible in no particular priority. We'll upload unless they prioritize within our department. I could only imagine really breaking out Public Works separate from everyone else. Certainly FEMA, under FEMA direction, they are first responders. Certainly now in snow, I think we learned quickly this week during our snow event that they are first responders. So we don't know that there would be a separation of any of our staff, but that's the one we might anticipate. So they'll tell us who to upload. We'll put their names in the system. And then as they're ready to contact them, they'll be contacted through the VAM system through that email. So we have a lot of questions. There are not a lot of answers to all of our questions. It is a very fluid situation, but going into the system does not mean someone has to receive the vaccine if they choose not to. It's their choice. It is not mandatory. It is not mandatory from the town. It is not mandatory from the state, and federally it's not mandatory at this point. So we're going on that assumption. I will tell you that we got unemployment numbers on Friday, and our unemployment for November in Wellington was up slightly to 5.7%, and that is 211 persons. On Wednesday, we were made aware of Executive Order 9R. Do you remember the tax collection deferment and low interest options we had, John, back in April?
I do.
Okay, so that was for the first tax collection in July. We've been asking, tax collectors have been asking whether or not this was going to happen again, and it seemed an emphatic no. Well, in fact, the answer on Wednesday night was yes. So unless we change our options, we have to offer either the interest or deferment or both. We did just the deferment, which pushed off taxes for 3 months without penalty. So I will continue that, and we don't need to take a vote as a board if we do so. The unfortunate thing was our tax bills went out prior to this executive order being signed. So you probably have yours in hand, any of those on the phone if you had a supplemental or a notice of second installment. There you go. See, John's got his there. We would have put something in those bills had we been aware, but we weren't. So we have put something on social media, on our website, in a public notice, and the revenue collector is sending out postcards. So anyone who received a supplemental bill, has a second installment of personal property or property tax, will receive a postcard explaining this to them. So we were fortunate we were able to get the funding for that extra postage into some of our relief funds for COVID, but that's a pretty big undertaking after the department had just sent out all of their bills. So what that means is that our taxpayers have until April 1st to pay without penalty. And if on April 2nd, you have not paid in full your taxes that were due January 1st, the interest will revert back to January 1st. So instead of getting that 1 month's grace period that is typically offered, it's now 3 months. So just like the first installment, we don't know what that will bring. There is some anticipated stimulus funds coming from the federal government to $600 per individual making under 75,000 and children. So that may be able to help folks as they're struggling in these times, but I'm not sure. We made out okay in revenue collection for the first half of the year. So we will kind of be on standby until April, and we'll give regular updates to this board as well as the Board of Finance like we did last year. We'll see where we are February 1st of this year compared to February 1st of last year. So that again was not something we had anticipated. Do you have any COVID related questions, John?
No.
Okay. All right, that brings us to old business school building committee appointment of chair. So it says members discussion, appointment of chair. So one of the things we had talked about was appointing a chair by the, we appointed all of the members at our last meeting and they've all received a communication. So we have a full committee. The Board of Selectmen had previously discussed appointing a chairperson. I would like to suggest that we begin the first meeting, and I could begin the first meeting and then let the committee discuss appointing a chair of that committee. It certainly is an undertaking. What we wouldn't want to do is appoint someone who's not prepared to do that. I'd like the committee to be able to have that discussion if you are amiable to that, John.
I'm not quite understanding here. I mean, generally, we've appointed a committee. Somebody will take charge and get everybody together to have a meeting, and at that meeting, the committee will appoint their chairs.
That's what I'm saying, right? So we had in the past and other school building committees previously, the Board of Selectmen appointed the chairperson. What I'm suggesting is that I can call a meeting. We'll get that meeting together as I have been appointed to that committee, and then let the board, that committee choose who their chairperson, and they can talk it out themselves rather than us choosing someone who may not be prepared. And then we'll have to be back at the same discussion. So I'd like the committee members themselves, if you're open to that, instead of us appointing somebody.
Right. Well,
Okay.
I'm in favor of that. That's
Okay.
what I wondered about this thing on the agenda anyway.
Yeah, that's what it was. So we had actually voted to appoint a chair. And again, in the past, school building committees had the Board of Selectmen appointed the chair. I think I'd like the discussion to happen with those committee members. I think it's important that the person that does this actually is willing to serve and be able to have some discussion. So I can call the first meeting and then move, once that vote is taken, then move the committee chair over to that individual.
Okay, let's.
Okay. I do not intend to be that person more than beginning the meeting. So I'll put that on the record. All right. If no other discussion regarding that matter, I will ask if there's anyone present to speak. Yes, you should be able to unmute yourself, sir.
Good evening, Mike McCoo, Clover Springs Drive. I just wanted to bring up to the full meeting something that First Selectwoman Mushinsky and I have discussed a couple of times that I'd like to have people to have on the radar, especially as we're coming into budget season. Over the last year, certainly for many reasons, security in Wellington has been a concern. There's been a lot of quality of life issues with car break-ins and things like that. And certainly we've had some much more unfortunate incidents in town. And the town is moving in some good directions. The communications task force is probably going to bring valuable things to the town, and not a moment too soon. We've got, with the incident, the minor, apparently minor incident that happened with the Clint Eldridge Road area this past week. There's a lot of scuttlebutt on social media about how do we find out about these things? What should be the communication method? So I think the townspeople are looking for these improvements. So I think it's great we're working on it. The other thing I wanted to bring to people's attention is this item that I've discussed with Erica before, as I said, and that is the possibility of some traffic cameras for the town. I'd like people to be thinking about it. I know that capital money is hard to come by, and there are a lot of projects this town has that need to be funded. But I've worked on a draft proposal. I've made some revisions, just working as a citizen on this with experience in this field. And I'll be sending a revised, updated one based on what's happened in between last year and this year. The one that I presented Erica last year had some holes in it that we wouldn't have known about until the events of the last year have occurred. And I just wanted it brought to attention in this format. And then, we'll have to leave it to whichever group becomes responsible for it to decide if it moves forward or not. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else present to speak? Again, you don't have to be on camera, but you should be able to unmute yourself. All right. Well, I'm glad to see so many people join us at our meetings. I'll move to good and welfare. I have our November police report from Troop C. In the month of November, there were 480 calls for service, 9 accidents, 11 criminal investigations, 2 larcenies, and 412 non-reportable matters, for a total of 8 arrests. For motor vehicle enforcement, there was a total of 41 traffic stops, including 2 on-site DUIs, 1 arrest, 6 misdemeanor summons, 17 infractions, 4 written warnings, and 14 verbal warnings. And I don't have the breakdown, but that does include Wellington's portion of I-84 as well. All right. I'll remind folks that you can get any and all COVID information, including testing site information, at portal.ct.gov/coronavirus. And that's shared on our website, and we'll share it again on our social media. This week, mobile food share will be here at the town office building again. As long as we've had the spike in cases, we've moved it here to keep the number of individuals separate from the senior housing complex. And it also gives a little bit more room. We have a drive-through model now. So that's this Wednesday from 11 to 11:30. If anyone has any questions, they can reach out to the Human Services Department. But certainly you're welcome to call the Selectmen's office as well. Remember, if you are able to continue to support our small businesses, including restaurants here in Wellington, during these times, they certainly need our help. Again, if you're able, and we understand everyone can't. I will. So our Parks and Rec Director, Maureen, her last day with us was Friday. We're very sad to see her go, but she didn't go without creating some really fun, socially distant ways for our residents to feel connected this winter without many activities going on. So she held on Thanksgiving a turkey scavenger hunt. And most recently, and I'll give you the winners of the gingerbread house competition. The winners were Ellery Stevens, Jocelyn Bolduc, and Judy Marco. So there were some great entries. I hope people had an opportunity to vote on them. They were wonderful. And the tour of Holiday Lights, which people can still go, and we'll share that. The winners of Wellington Pizza gift cards were, for the most traditional house, Kim Vera. They're out on Laurel Drive. It's absolutely beautiful. All the houses were great. I will tell you, they were wonderful. This wasn't easy. The most animated house went to Rick LaBelle on Fermier Road. It was a absolutely perfect gingerbread house, and I hope you can still see it with all the snow. And the overall winner was Aubrey Fountain at 222 Willington Hill Road. So congratulations to our winners. I want to thank Maureen for putting these opportunities together. The tour of lights included several surrounding towns, Mansfield, Coventry, Willington, and Ashford. Our Parks and Rec, and I think Tallinn, our Parks and Rec departments got together and created that. So there's, a large list of roads. You can go town to town and check out the lights while staying in your car and safe. John, do you have anything for good and welfare?
I just wanted to state for the old timers in town, sad news. John Balaz, who was a native of the town and who for many, many years was the public works director up in Ashford, then retired and moved to Atlanta, passed away last Thursday. So I know some people will remember him. And otherwise, I hope everybody has a wonderful Christmas.
Thank you. I echo those. My thoughts go out to the Balaz family, and want to wish. I was remiss at our last meeting of wishing those who celebrate a happy Hanukkah, and so I know Hanukkah has officially ended, but certainly those sentiments. Apologies, the lights go out. But wish everyone a happy holidays, a happy New Year, and if you celebrate, a Merry Christmas. So it may not be the Christmas and New Year's we all anticipated. But hopefully soon we can get back into some sense of normal and stay safe. So I'll remind everyone to wear your masks, especially at the transfer station. You got to have your mask on. All right. If you're visiting us at the town office building, you got to have your mask on. I'm in my office by myself, but I have my mask for the minute I step out the door. So we got to do our part and think beyond ourselves to keep ourselves and our families safe. So with that, I will wish everyone Happy New Year. And unless we have a need for a special meeting, we'll see you next year. And I will make a motion to adjourn at 7:07 p.m.
Second.
Seconded by John. This is a non-debatable matter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Imagine anyone's ever says no. We can't discuss it, but we can vote. So thank you all.
Good.